And then finally, we actually do have one bit of basketball news. For those of you that have been following the channel, and you've heard me kind of talk about most of these games as they've been announced, but the full non-conference schedule was officially announced. And I want to go through the games, want to talk about what my thoughts on each of the games are, give a little bit of a prediction, a little bit of where I think we need to sit at current states in the schedule, and then what my prediction for the non-conference slate this season is. Warning, it is an absolute gauntlet. This is a NATO schedule if I have ever seen one. This is probably the toughest schedule Nate has scheduled in quite some time. So I will pop it up here on the screen, but Alabama starts with North Dakota. You start with a low major team. This is pretty normal. This is a return trip from the one that Alabama almost lost last season. Thankfully, North Dakota will not have Trayson Eaglestaff. He is on to greener pastures in the high major ranks, so they will not have Trayson Eaglestaff. But Alabama plays North Dakota. This one is at home, so obviously this will be a game that Alabama is expected to win, and expected to win fairly large. And then normally what Alabama would do is they would have a couple more low major teams, and then you would get into your high major schedule. That is not what NATO's did this season. He goes directly from North Dakota to 4 straight potential preseason top 20 teams, top 15 teams. Then you go at St. John's. I believe this one's going to be played in Madison Square Garden. And obviously playing against Rick Pitino in Madison Square Garden, a team that has been phenomenally good, an incredible defense, a Hall of Fame caliber coach, right? This is going to be a incredibly tough game, a team that was a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament last season, right? This is a very good matchup. It's going to be one of the more marquee matchups of the non-conference slate. Going to be a really tough one. I would suspect that's going to be one that you just got to circle. Then you have Purdue coming to Tuscaloosa, right? This is obviously the return trip from Alabama's loss at Purdue last season at Mackey Arena. So that's obviously going to be another big one. Matt Painter, again, Hall of Fame caliber coach, preseason top 10 team, incredible roster. Obviously, they returned Braden Smith. This is going to be a really good team. Then you have Illinois, and that one's going to be in Chicago, I believe. So that was at the United Center. Their return trip from the game that they played in Birmingham last season for the CM Newton Classic. I think the Alabama, obviously Illinois is one that brings in a lot of international players typically, so that's one that has a fairly high variance. They should be very good. I think Brad Underwood's a good coach. However, they are a team that's sometimes a little bit more difficult to gauge with some of the transfers and some of the people that they bring in from an international standpoint. So that is something you just kind of have to look at when you're talking about Illinois. I think they will be good, but I am curious to see what they look like. Then you have Gonzaga as your first game for the Players Era Festival. Obviously, Gonzaga, Mark Few, let's count them. That's 3 Hall of Fame coaches in the first 5 games that Alabama's going to be playing. Just an absolutely elite program, an absolutely elite team. Fully expect Gonzaga to be ready to play for that one. Mark Few's a great coach. It's going to be a tough one. Then finally, you have a little bit easier game in UNLV, again, at the Players Era Festival. This is going to be a game that Alabama has to win, because either they're going to be, there is a world in which Alabama starts 2-3. There's a world in which they start 1-4, right? Do I think that they're going to start 1-4? No, but that world exists. So picking up the win against UNLV is an absolute must. And then you have the final Players Era Festival game. Not sure who it's going to end up being, but I'm sure it will be another very good team. UNLV is actually one of the lower teams in the Players Era thing, so it's completely, whoever else we get for that final game, I'm sure will be a resume boosting team as well. Then you have the SEC ACC Challenge with Clemson coming to town. Thankfully, Ian Shefflin is not going to be playing for Clemson. I know he absolutely ate our lunch last time he played for Clemson and came into Coleman Coliseum. This is a game which Alabama will be obviously having circled as well. I think this is a game that Alabama should be able to win. I think Alabama is going to match up very well with Clemson this season, but obviously another high major team. Then you have Austin Claunch and UTSA coming to town for one of your low majors. Uh, Obviously, return of Austin Claunch. I'm sure Nate tried to schedule him last season, but they're able to get UTSA on the schedule. This comes for a run of three of the next four, including Claunch, are going to be former assistants. So obviously, it's going to be a big one. So again, you have Austin Claunch coming to town. Then you have your CM Newton Classic in Birmingham against Arizona. Elite team. I expect Arizona to be very, very good this season. I would put them right up with your St. John's, your Purdue's, your Illinois. I think Arizona will be very good this season. They have a great coach, and they've historically been a obviously very good team, and I expect this season to be no different. Then you host Brian Hodgson in South Florida. Hodgson, obviously you played him the last couple of seasons at Arkansas State, but now he moves on to South Florida. I'm sure he's going to have an incredibly good roster. He takes over after the passing of Abdul Rahim, and I think that Brian Hodgson is going to do a great job. I know that he was a great coach at Arkansas State, and I expect nothing to change at South Florida. Then you host Pitt and Kennesaw State on December the 21st. This is again going to be a game that you kind of have to win. And then to close out non-conference slate, on December the 29th, you host Yale. Kennesaw State is actually not being hosted. That's actually up in Probst Arena in Huntsville. Sorry about that one. So that one's going to be in Probst Arena in Huntsville for Kennesaw State, and then you do host Yale to finish it out, right? So on the home games there, you've got North Dakota at home, Purdue at home, Clemson at home, UTSA at home, Arizona in Birmingham, South Florida at home, Kennesaw in Huntsville, and then Yale at home, right? So you do have some pretty big home games, but you're at St. John's, in Chicago against Illinois, at your neutral site against Gonzaga and UNLV and whoever that last one ends up being. So this is not going to be an easy schedule by any stretch of the imagination. This is going to be, again, one of the top KenPom non-conference schedules, one of the top non-conference schedules in the entire country, as it is every season, right? This is going to prepare us for March Madness. That's why Nate schedules how he schedules. He wants to see a lot of different teams. He wants to see teams that play fast, that play slow, that are defensive, that are offensive. He wants to get the team as prepared as he can. And the way that he looks to do that is just schedule this insane run of teams, because then the team will know what it's going to take to win 5 or 6 in a row, right? So my predictions when I look at these, my thought is you have to go 3-2 through the first, you need to go 4-2 through the first 6 games, all right? Through North Dakota, St. John's, Purdue, Illinois, Gonzaga, UNLV. You got to win North Dakota and UNLV, and I think you need to split St. John's, Purdue, Illinois, Gonzaga, right? I think that's how you need to look at it. I think 4-2 needs to be the goal. I think that 5-1 you'd be absolutely floored with. I think 3-3 you wouldn't be upset with. 2-4 you'd have to be upset, right? 3-3 I think you're baseline. 4-2 you're happy. 5-1 you're ecstatic, right? 6-0 obviously just an absolutely ridiculous start. But I think that 4-2 realistically is kind of what you're looking at in that one. Then for the Players Era game, obviously it's going to depend on who you get, but obviously you would hope to be able to try to win that one. Then I think really to close it out, you probably look to maybe only lose one more, right? So if we look at there being 13 games, I would think kind of a floor 9-4, 10-3 is what you're going to want to hope for. I think realistically the team could go 11-2. I think that world does exist, but I think that you're not hurting if you go 10-3, 9-4, even 8-5. I don't think that you're absolutely going to be hurting if you go 8-5. Again, it's an insanely difficult non-conference schedule. It's going to be one that's going to prepare you for the future. It's going to be one that I think that is going to have you fully ready. And it's also going to be one that does not at all hurt your seeding in March Madness. Does not at all hurt your seeding when it comes to how people are being ranked. Even if Alabama ends up, 9-4, they have 4 losses in the non-conference. It's not going to hurt them because they have an absolutely insane murderer's row that they're going to be playing. And the people that vote on basketball, they're going to see, the non-conference strength of schedule rankings, and they're going to know, and it hasn't hurt Alabama in the past, and I don't expect us to hurt us in the future, right? Alabama just needs to play their game. Alabama needs to do what they're capable of, and it's not going to matter. As long as you play to your capability, I think that Alabama will be completely fine. Like I said, my personal thought is I'm going to say 10-3. I'm going to say you go 4-2 through the first 6, and then you drop one more of Clemson, Arizona, or whoever the final players era is, right? So I'm going to say 10-3 is what my prediction is going to be. I think it's a little strong. I think that 9-4 is a real likelihood, but I think that 10-3 is what I'm going to predict. Like I said, I think that you go 4-2 through those first 6, and then you potentially either drop the last one in the players era or Clemson or Arizona, and those are going to be kind of the ones that I would have circled for the ones that are the possibilities. Again, do not skate over Yale. Do not skate over South Florida. These are teams that absolutely can beat you, right? At the end of the day, these are coaches that are very good. Hodgson is somebody that knows Nate Oates incredibly, incredibly well. I mean, last season against Arkansas, when he was at Arkansas State, he gave us a crazy game. So do not overlook these teams, but you have to be expected to beat these teams if you're going to compete at the top of the country, right? You just have to be able to beat these teams. So, like I said, my prediction is going to be 10-3. I think that Alabama has the ability to do it. If Alabama shoots really well, they could go 11-2. I don't think that's outside of the realm of possibility. Better than that is just phenomenal, right? Could it happen? Sure, but anybody predicting it in my mind is just rose-colored glasses, and I think that they're being a little unrealistic in probably what's going to happen. Could it? Sure, but their likelihoods, I just don't think it's super duper likely that you're going to see a 12-1 non-conference, with this kind of schedule. I think that, a 10-3, 9-4 is completely reasonable and realistic for what we're looking at for this non-conference schedule. So that's what kind of my thoughts are as it relates to the non-conference schedule. Again, this is probably going to be the last basketball topic that we're going to talk about on the show, at least here for the next couple of weeks with the preview episodes and stuff. We will probably have a standalone basketball episode. I'm thinking probably coming out middle of September with Max Barr of Southeastern 16. I asked him earlier, and he's gracious enough to come on the show, so I'm going to talk to Max. We're going to talk SEC basketball. Of course, we will be talking SEC football here for probably the foreseeable future here for the next couple of weeks. Again, as I talked about at the top of the show, if you are interested in the previews and recaps and such of all the games, subscribe here to the channel. If you ever are curious or want me to talk to somebody or have something you think I need to discuss, if you'll throw it down in the comments, I do read all of those and I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and I will catch you in the next episode. Peace.